Hey, I'm Jay Beershank. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're here for another edition of book reviews, like a well-thrown boomerang. Back at it again. We have a wonderful book that we're going to go over today that impacted me deeply and found me again at the perfect time, as books seem to do. It's essential reading for a man and important reading for a woman. That book is Iron John by Robert Bly. This book, in and of its essence, is a story of the hero's journey, or of the initiation of a man, or of a boy into a man. But it's not the hero's journey in a cyclical sense of going from known to unknown, from order to chaos, and always, throughout this cyclical pattern throughout your life. But it's starting as a boy, and then developing into a man, and then ascending into an elder. And it's very interesting the way in which the book communicates this. The book communicates it in a way where it commands a certain amount of respect and presence from you, the same way that an established older gentleman or your grandfather would. The vision I had in my mind was sitting by the fire with an established older man who sits me down and he tells me what I need to hear, and has no emotion about it, because he's purely coming from a place of deep knowing, and a place where the words will resonate whenever they need to. They're going to be in my psyche, and he knows he's planted them there, and they will grow, or they will resonate whenever the time comes for that. And I just absolutely loved this book. The way in which they go about this initiation is through the main story of a myth called Iron John, which is about a wild man, or a monster, who is killing people in this forest. And then this boy anyway becomes friends with that person, and then the story develops, and it's a very interesting story. And that's what the story, or that's what the book here kind of goes off of or references. But he dissects and interprets the story so deeply and so interestingly that it's just so captivating, whether you're interested in the initiation of man or not. Just someone's creative ability to pull information from different sources and then be able to deliver this concrete idea of what it means to be initiated into manhood, and what it really means to be to be a man. When I say man, I just mean like a fully developed psyche, or at least increasingly developed psyche, because you may never have a fully developed, but it's radically interesting. Some of my favorite parts, or favorite experiences or stages in this initiation, I really loved his ideas and depiction of the garden. We may have heard of the idea of the garden. This is kind of a like Garden of Eden, or kind of back to this place of simplicity and purity. How he described the garden, I really liked. This was, this place where a boy learns how to be a lover. And he was talking about this is the time in a boy's life where he learns instruments, because instruments pull at the strings of the heart. And also there was a part that I really liked in it where it talked about these repressed traumas from your father and from your mother's relationship, and your relationship to them. And we've all heard of that, but then he described it in ways in which it can show up as an individual's fragile ego, and how that can be projected onto your partners in the future. And this book came to me right when I was having some serious troubles with my ex-girlfriend, and the kinds of things that were being said in the book, they completely debilitated me, because they were exactly what I was doing. And it's so interesting, because it takes a wise man to be able to sober someone with such poignant information so well. And this book just repeatedly was giving me that kind of sobering knowledge feeling, and it was just so interesting and so powerful. And I really think that a man at any stage in his life will resonate with the things that Robert says, because it's so foundational, and it's so real, and it's so deeply embedded in who we are as men and who we are as humans, deeply embedded in our psyches. The things that he talks about are universal for men and women, but he's writing for men, and he's a man, and he says multiple times in the story, like, this journey for a woman should be told by a woman, even though it's referenced a bit, and he talks about some ways in which they correlate and the ways in which they play off each other and stuff. But it was profound. That's probably the best way to put it. It was profound. So yeah, I really encourage young men if you're watching this, like seriously, pick up the book. You'll be a better man. You'll be a much better partner to any woman who comes in contact with you. You'll be a much better father. You'll be a much better brother. And you'll be able to look yourself in the mirror with a bit more respect if you do your very best to understand what he is talking about, and do your very best to try to implement these stages or these steps of your personal, evolution and your personal initiation. It's very interesting, and one of the biggest points that he makes in this is the initiation of boys to men was routinely and historically done by the elders. The elders had some kind of, real time when they would take the boys away from their mothers, and they would have some kind of initiation, and the boy knew after that that he was in camaraderie with the men, and that he was a fellow man. And that's not happening anymore. That's not, definitely not in our Western society. And the way in which he says that can affect culture in society is really, really interesting, and you definitely see what he's saying playing out. Especially me, I'm 23, like just kind of looking at the other men my age and looking at what I feel like Western society and what the world kind of through social media tells young men that they should and need to be is very interesting. He also, there was a point in this book where he talked about different types of men, and there was like the soft man, and then there was also this one he called the high flyer. And the high flyer was someone so compelled towards these high ideals, and basically these high ideals and this like soaring towards them. He described it in such an interesting and poignant way for me, because for much of my life I was a high flyer in terms of what you would call that. There was another name for it. It was like, it was a Latin rooted word. It was like, it meant pure boy. So whatever Latin root for pure boy is, but it was just such an interesting archetype. And I just know that any man who reads this book will find themselves in the different types of males and different types of trigger reactions that you have to things. And it's so important to be able to understand, I think, and see within yourself. And it's just another tool for growth, which is what all these books are, trying to turn conceptual knowledge into experiential knowledge. That's what I feel like. So, yep, that's my review of it. Iron John by Robert Bly. It's not a long book at all. It's not hard to read. It's very powerful. Highly recommend it. I was given this book by one of my mentors about 6 years ago, and I didn't read it then because I wasn't ready and I lost it, and it wasn't the time in my life for it, which it was now, trust me. But he told me that this book is essential reading for what he called the divine masculine, and the book The Chalice and the Blade is the essential reading for the divine feminine. The Chalice and the Blade is an interesting book that I'll review at another time, but anyway, check it out. Piece from Northern California. This is a field on a 100-acre piece of property that I live. It's beautiful. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Don't forget to like and subscribe.